Less than 48 hours. That's how much time President Trump has given Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz before, quote, all hell will rain down on them. The president posted that threat to his Truth Social this morning. Good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Madeline Carter. The strait has been closed for about a month, cutting off roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. We've all felt the consequences between higher gas prices and more expensive flight tickets. But as President Trump threatens Iran to get the strait back open, Iran is issuing a threat of its own.
If you capture and hand over a pilot or pilots of the enemy alive to the law enforcement and military forces, you will receive a valuable reward and prize.
Now, you just heard an anchor on Iranian state TV offer a reward, later revealed to be $60,000 for a missing U.S. pilot alive. Iranian forces shot down a U.S. fighter jet yesterday with 2 pilots inside. The first was rescued, but tonight the second remains missing, and U.S. planes are flying into enemy territory to find them. Joining us now to break this all down for us is Seattle University political science professor Patrick Shetmer. Patrick, thank you so much for being here today. A fighter jet down with a pilot missing in enemy territory. Can you help us understand just how serious an escalation this is?
Well, this will certainly have a pretty strong impact on American political opinion on the intervention. There have been a number of casualties in this conflict already, but prisoners of war hit a little bit different with the public, particularly if they're going to be captured by the Iranian government. The Iranian government does have a little bit of a history of using prisoners or people they've captured in nearby areas or in Iran itself for political and propaganda purposes. So if they are able to find the American pilot alive, that's probably a use that they will put him to.
And how would Iran likely use the capture of a U.S. service member as leverage? Have we seen this kind of thing happen before?
We've seen it a number of times. The classic example is, of course, the 1979 hostage crisis, where embassy officials were taken hostage by Iranian revolutionaries and held for an extended period. There was a rescue attempt during the Carter administration, but that went disastrously. And it ultimately played a big role in Carter's ultimate defeat. We've seen other people captured and used as leverage as well. And we would likely see this play out in a similar sort of way. There would be a public display and an effort to humiliate the United States by showing that even though the U.S. has a powerful military, Iranians can still hurt Americans.
Now, Patrick, I want to go back to this deadline that President Trump gave Iran. Is Iran in a position to keep the strait closed, or does this become economically unsustainable for them as well?
No, they're in a position to keep it closed indefinitely. Iran has still been shipping their oil through the strait. Americans could interdict the Iranian ships, but so far we have chosen not to, primarily to avoid antagonizing allies and to prevent the oil prices from further escalating. We have seen some hits on Iranian oil infrastructure, particularly from Israel. But every time oil is hit, that sends prices higher. And so they themselves are not necessarily feeling the impact. They're actually seeing more oil revenues now than before the conflict began because of the rising oil prices.
And in his address to the nation this week, President Trump said, quote, "We've beaten and completely decimated Iran, and this will all be over in just 2 to 3 weeks." In your view, Patrick, what's the reality tonight?
So I think the 2 to 3 week window is a window that President Trump often uses. He's used that particular phrasing since the first administration. And what I understand that to mean is that he would like things to be concluded quickly. But when he says 2 to 3 weeks, he's usually saying, I don't know actually when it's going to end. So I think that he's going to continue to try to ratchet up the pressure, but I don't think we can actually look at that 2 to 3 week deadline as a hard deadline.
Yeah, and as we are talking about trying to get this wrapped up, do you see any diplomatic path here, or are the U.S. and Iran past the point of talking it out?
There's always a diplomatic path forward. But I think that a diplomatic path forward at this point would require Americans to eat a little crow. And I don't think President Trump is ready to do that right now. We're in right now an asymmetric conflict. America has a decisive military advantage here, but the gambit that Iranians are making is that they can make it hurt on the American people enough, particularly by impacting the economic consequences of the conflict, to make it so that the American people will force Trump to back down before Iran will be forced to back down themselves.